Thank you. So today's agenda, as usual, will kick off with the usual business and updates. So then we'll have a report back from the last IPS call. Danielle will take us through a section on the ballot update. Then we'll go back to Heath, who will share the Australian Patient Summary track report back with us from the last Connectathon last week. After that, we'll spend some time discussing these 3 change requests. This will be Heath again, and then we'll wrap up the meeting with a quick overview of next steps. So, starting with the approval of the minutes from the last call, so I won't be putting them on the screen, but I'm just gonna just let everybody know that the minutes have been circulated, they're available in Confluence, and I'm also going to ask if anyone's got any questions they want to raise. And thanks, Shelley, for pasting the minutes. Want to raise regarding the minutes? If not, we will proceed to submitting a motion to have the minutes approved. Okay. If there's nothing, then I will proceed with submitting a motion to have the minutes approved. And if I could have a seconder, please.
Are you looking for a mover or a second, Ricardo?
I think I can move the motion, can't I?
No, not as
Chair usually don't.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. So can I please have then someone move a motion, please, to...
Yep, move to approve.
Thank you. Stephen?
I'll second.
Thank you.
That's Heath.
Heath. Paul's. Okay. So if you're not able to vote, please drop your vote in the chat. Okay. So I will end the vote. So we've had 81% people participating, actually a lot more. So I will end the poll now and I'll read the results. So we've had 8 affirmative, 1 abstain, so 7 abstain, which means that the motion has passed. So thank you all. Just close this. Okay. Some other updates still on this slide. So the AU Core ballot reconciliation has been completed. There's still a TBD here on AU-based reconciliation, so I'm not sure if anyone's got an update on this one they can share.
I think that's just the slides did not get updated. I'm pretty sure base reconciliation got done some time ago.
Yep. Okay.
But it is done. So I guess if that update didn't happen while I was away, yeah, AU-based reconciliation of ballot is 100% done.
Yep. Okay. Thank you. And then there's also an update on the interim co-chairs for 26. So there's not been an election yet for the co-chairs. Terms are ending for all the co-chairs at the end of this calendar year, I believe, right, Danielle? So that's 25 calendar year.
Yeah, all our terms
Yep.
which get listed on the Confluence page for the AU Core Technical Design Group all end December 2025. So yeah, in a week or so.
Yep. So we're currently expecting elections will happen first quarter of 26. We haven't received any official advice yet on this matter, and in the absence of official advice, we'll ask the work group to appoint interim co-chairs, and we will put through an e-vote to ratify the proposed um, arrangement. So, Danielle, is this the FHIR work group or is this work group?
That's the technical design group.
Okay. Yeah.
This AU Core Technical Design Group.
Okay.
Because this is you, me, and all the other AU Core TDG co-chairs who do all this administrative business. Our terms end December. So until we have the official election process from HL7 AU to go through that process, I think we need an interim arrangement. And under the HL7 International and the new HL7 Australia GOM, the process for having interim arrangements needs to be ratified by the group that has the co-chairs. So that's the AU Core TDG. So we need to confirm with the group that they are satisfied to allow the current co-chairs to continue to act in interim until we have that election.
Okay. And do we need to submit a motion for that?
Well, I think no, I don't think so because unless there are any objections, we'll just put out an e-vote to the AU Core TDG mailing list and
Yep.
allow the group to indicate whether or not they're happy for the co-chairs to continue to act until we act in interim until we have the official election.
Okay. All right. So for the minutes, then the vote will be put through to the mailing list, unless anyone's got any objections, which I don't see any or any hands up. So, okay, I think that's
I think maybe
that.
before we move off this page in terms of updates and news, I think, hang on, who do we have on the line? I'm just looking for someone from HL7AU.
Right.
Okay, it doesn't actually look like we have anyone. Okay, so at the firework group this week, we also got notice that there will be a ballot in February for um obviously this specification's going out to ballot in February.
Yep.
And that is open now. So you should have gotten an email. If you belong to an organization or have an individual membership, that means that you can be a ballot voter. You should have already got the email. If you haven't, we will probably put in the minutes where to go for that, but there would be I think the best is to contact Brett. I will just find that and I'll put it in the chat um, to make sure that your membership is available and registered with HL7 AU so that you can do ballot voting if you're interested to on the AU Patient Summary. There's also been announced that there will be an AU base, like a 6.1, a minor update to AU base being balloted, which is projected to have, I think, two new identifier profiles in support of agency HCA kind of needs. Did you want to just give a quick shout out to what that might be, Ricardo?
Um, yeah. So there's, and I'm assuming we're talking about the endpoint. Is that the one?
I think it's the two new identifiers
Sorry.
that
So,
are coming
yeah.
into
So
base.
look, I'm not into the detail of that one, so I can't really provide an update on that not sure if Stephen or I know Richard is working on that, but I'm not into the detail of that one. So I'll just
Stephen, did you want to provide any information on that, or will we just make sure there's a notification on Zulip for those who are interested?
Yeah, I think we can do that. My understanding is that Richard is still working on it, so we don't at this point in time having any sort of new information to update the work group on at this meeting.
yeah, we'll probably I'll have a chat to Richard and when we come back in the new year, put
Okay.
it on with so
Yep.
people can hear about it.
I think the other update is that I've gotten confirmed informally from HL7 AU that we absolutely will be having the Connectathon, the next one in Sydney in March. I don't have the exact dates yet, but so that's, as per usual, that's where we have it every year in that month, and that's what we're going to do next year. So watch out for those tickets coming for those of you who are in Sydney or want to come to that Connectathon. Um, and it also looks like that it will be like the last couple of years, it's shaping up to be a 3-day event where there'll be a symposium, work group meeting day, and then 2 days of Connectathon. So I think those are all the updates that I have. Is there anything else people want to share?
Daniel, I just noticed that CDG and TGG meeting in Hobart in February is quite late. So is there any indication as to whether the March event in Sydney will be in early March or in late March? So therefore, there is a bit of a time distance between the two events.
I heard it was mid-March, and the reason that so while I don't have the exact dates, one of the reasons I know that is because, of course, we're doing all this ballot preparation, and HL7 Australia does a great thing of where we hold a connectathon during the ballot period. So the ballot period for AU Patient Summary goes through until the mid of March. So it currently looks like it ends on the 20th of March. So it's going to be in, I think, the first or actually not the first, the second or third week of March. I don't know the exact dates. I hope they'll get
So
announced when that's official.
right, so the ballot is comment submission date ends in mid-March. Is that what it is?
Yes, that's right.
All right, so you will be after the closing of the ballot comments.
No, it's during. We always hold a connectathon event so that testing with the community and breakouts can happen while the ballot period is open, so that anything that we find out through a connectathon can actually be submitted as a ballot comment. So it's definitely going to happen before the 20th of March.
Okay,
But I mean that's as much as I've got at the moment. So that's it for me.
Thanks for that. All right. Move on. It's a couple of open actions.
So those two for me, they're still ongoing. There's been some other priority items that we've been discussing at the IPS calls. So yeah, yet to address those two items.
Thanks, Heath. And the third action, I still haven't heard from Tim, so I need to chase him on that one. So don't have an update to provide on that one, and I don't think Tim is here at the call today. So yep, I'll continue to try to get an update from him. Thanks, Heath. All right. I think back to you again, Heath, with the report back from the IPS project.
Okay, I might seeing that I've got a few of the next slides, I might take over if that's all right. Why? Yeah, no, can I not do that? It's off screen. Okay, so first one is basically a report back from the last IPS call that we had on the 10th of December. So for those that perhaps are not aware, there is a weekly IPS call, which is obviously the group that developed the implementation guide that AU Patient Summary is based on. As we've moved into summer and daylight saving times, the project was very nice to accommodate us in the Southern Hemisphere to have a alternate week candidates of calls. So basically, there is this fortnightly call at 9 a.m. Eastern daylight saving time. And there's an alternate week that was the usual time that sort of suits more the Europeans. So during those Australian-friendly times, I've been raising or discussing topics that have been items that we were looking for clarification on from a UPS perspective. This last session, we talked about populating and handling obligations for elements with multiple cardinalities. Some of the examples where we have this is in patient identifier and name. Also allergy intolerance manifestation, and also within our codable concept where we manage things like medication coding. There are these multiple occurring elements and with obligations on them for populate and handle, and we wanted to understand what that actually means when these elements repeat. So as an example, is it all known values need to be populated from a producer perspective, or is it just at least one, or somewhere in between? And similarly for a consumer, do they have to handle every possible value that they might receive, or can they choose which values that they support? So we had quite a bit of conversation in particular around some of the examples around patient demographics in particular, and also then started to look at how that might change for clinical information such as the allergy and medication codings. And we've kind of came to a conclusion that there might actually be some variation in the intent in those. So for things like patient identifiers, for example, there seems to be this implementation experience or approach to this where that we just provide one. So if it's a national identifier or a Medicare identifier, or in America it's a social security number, then that's all we provide. If it's a hospital system, then it might be a medical record number that we provide. We don't have to provide every individual identifier that we want. And also when we're handling those as a consumer, that we don't, if we receive something from America, we don't know what a social security number really means or can do much with it. So we were looking at it being, only those that we actually support or understand the meaning of that we need to handle. And then we looked at allergies, manifestation, for example, and we sort of see, at least from a populate perspective, producing things that we should be providing all of those known values, or shall even actually, because that's what the application is. It's a shall populate if known. Whereas again, handling. And again, this comes down to the interpretation of what handle actually means, which we'll discuss a little bit further later on. Basically, it's those that we have some understanding of what they actually mean. So we didn't really we didn't get through to any particular conclusion. And I see your hand up there, Danielle. But we will it basically took an action out of that to come up with some examples and come back with a guidance proposal. So Danielle?
Just on I guess the handle part. So, a handle was 100% all, whether you know it or not. And knowing it is part of handling it. So process might be only the ones you know, but just to be clear, consumers, the decision or the expectation from everyone on the line of whether it's demographics, clinical, whatever, was that everything needs to be handled.
Yeah.
Which
So
might
that,
mean the do nothing, but you can do nothing.
and as I said, we'll get into the nuances of that in a little bit later in the call. So it's a fun topic to discuss. So any questions on that other than Danielle's clarification? Okay. So Bella update.
Thanks.
Back to you, Ricardo.
Thanks, Sid. I think the ballot update is with you, Danielle, if you want to take us through the slides.
Sure. Can someone move to the next slide? Okay, what's changed on this slide? We did the ballot resolution snapshot, which doesn't have all of our ballot uh items in it, but it had all the normative ones. So that was to go to the Connectathon, and that happened. So testing during the Connectathon occurred on a snapshot that had 100% of the normative ballot items in it. So that's done. The other thing that's changed is with the withdrawal. So the notification that people who had voted and who had voted negative can withdraw. Some of our affirmatives and negatives have changed. So there's some people have withdrawn, so that now moves it to an approval rating of 89%. I mean, it's irrelevant for ballot for comment, but that number is increased. Do you want to go to the next slide? And so this is where we are. We've obviously we finished triage. Reconciliation is 100% done. In terms of applied, we're missing two. There are, I believe, two ballot items that we have not yet applied. These were expected to not yet be applied. One of those is what was in the November workshop. At Canberra, which was to describe functional limitations of receiving an IPS, or what we would put in a section that would flesh that out. And the other, which I don't remember off the top of my head, is also an update to an informative section that, oh no, hang on, I think that's the no known meds. That's the no known meds. So that is in progress and isn't fully applied at this stage. So that's all that's outstanding. That's going to be done soon, is the expectation. Okay, that's all I've got. I'm surprised to see those slides. They should be hidden / not there, because that was about when we were doing reconciliation. Cool.
Back to you, Ethan.
Okay, so
Sorry to interject, Daniel and Heath. As you are aware, I am engaging HL7 International Pharmacy Work Group on making some changes to R4, or making not changes to R4 medication statement. No changes can be made, but providing some recommendations on how to I provide guidance on the use of medication statement for no medication. So I'm not expecting an outcome until probably after mid-January or so. are any of those changes sort of have any chance of getting into the ballot package before the ballot is started?
Oh, for sure. We don't have to. So our deadline for publishing, for like content closure and publishing the AU Patient Summary Ballot for Working Standard snapshot is, I believe, the 16th of February. I think
Okay.
right at the end of this slide pack, there's a like a timeline dates, but it's around the 16th of February that we have to be tools down on that. And look, if we miss that, that means it's out for ballot. So we still have a period of editorial improvement, especially things that have already been agreed to that we can incorporate.
Okay, that's wonderful. So I will be working sort of hard on getting some kind of agreement within the HL7 International Pharmacy community. And then I'm also on hope to provide some examples for that. So I'll work towards that. Thank you.
I mean, we do need to consider that we have actually made a resolution and agreed by the TDG that what is actually going to be put into the ballot at this
I
point.
understand
So,
that.
are you expecting it to conflict with any of those decisions that have been made?
There shouldn't be. There
Okay.
will be no structural change to the medication statement structure definition per se. The recommendation will be more about how to improve the definition for that specific use cases on a number of elements, including the medication statement dot medication, medication statement dot status, and medication statement dot effective. So, and then putting some guidance on that and providing a couple, well, at least one clinical examples for that. So I do not anticipate structural change or significant change other than those definitional guidance.
Not looking to sort of spend much time on it, but we've already agreed on what we intend to put in as guidance. So again, we just need to be ensuring that there's no conflict with that. So
No, that shouldn't be a conflict.
yeah,
The value set status equal to active will still be in there. It's just that the definition of active would be slightly sort of changed to align with the concept of known medication status. Anyway, I don't want to, as you said, to spend too much time on this call to discuss that. I will provide more details once there is agreement at the international community, and then we can then discuss that further.
excellent. Thank you. Okay, so HL7 Australia Connectathon last week. I think it was last week. Or was it the week before? I don't know. Might have been the week before.
Last week.
It was. It seems a long time ago.
Doesn't
Um,
it?
so we had 4 tracks. One of those tracks was AU Patient Summary. And in the context of that, I mean, this diagram is basically reflects more of the entire Spark program. So it's actually got e-requesting on here, AU Core as well. But you can see some of the vendors that were participating actively in the Connectathon in the various tracks. The ones that are, I guess, for this community is the purple ones, where we had a number of vendors, probably a lot more viewers and consumers than what we have had in the past. I think we did have a couple of producers, but they were actually apps that we're actually producing. So it was good to have more of those, and you can see that there was a lot of connecting going on. Again, specifically around patient summary, we were running 3 scenarios, one which was via servers that were producing or generating AU patient summaries. We had apps that were generating a patient summary, and we had apps that were consuming patient summaries. So those are reflected in the columns here. So down on the FHIR server side of things, we had some servers that were using $summary. There was one there that was using docref. Over on the right-hand side, we can see that there were some apps that were consuming those and actually being able to request those as $summary and docref requests, etc. And we just had some viewers, etc., that were copy and paste. But in the middle, we've got a couple there that were actually producing them as well, and in particular, one that was exchanging them through smart health links. So, yeah, that's what was some of the issues that we or questions that we had throughout the Connectathon. There's these, how to populate full URLs was a common. I had probably at least 3 people that talked to me about referencing of resources within a bundle and the need to consistently rewrite those URLs, full URLs within the entries, and then referencing internally around those. And also we had a conversation a bit around how deep do we go into our referencing, or how those resources, including the resources that are referenced within the bundle as well. So that was interesting feedback. I'm not sure what we do about that. Whether it's something that we need to include into the IG at all. But certainly it seems to be something that we're getting regular questions about. As far as the IG is concerned, we had no issues with the IG, which was great outcome. Any comments or questions on that? Probably didn't do that justice. Sorry about that.
I will say it's also been a topic and continues to be in the IPS kind of connectathon tracks and international. It looks like a number of vendors have implemented reliance in a bundle on resource ID rather than using the entry full URL, which is actually wrong. And also doing and processing, for example, therefore maybe some relative URLs, which again is wrong. Well, I mean, it might work out, but it might not. And so I think it continues to be an ongoing topic in implementation that I've seen across multiple nations.
And I mean, I'm going to go through the hot topics session that we had at that meeting, but it actually might be a really good hot topic for the future that we can discuss. But there is actually some clear guidance in the standard on how to manage this. So it's more probably about making it aware, or people aware of that guidance.
I wonder if it's worth us doing an information session.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we had 2 breakouts, one was around shall handle, and I'm trying to come up with a plain language definition, and you can already see with the conversation that, well, what I reported back previously, that English language definition around what does handle actually mean gets tricky. So we had a very small group that had a bit of a chat about this, on how to make it easier to understand what actually shall handle means, from as far as what the expectations are for a consumer to handle those obligations. I've already been through this somewhat with the previous discussion, but some of the examples even that aren't related to multiple occurring elements are things like status codes. So what does it mean to handle a status code, especially some of the weird ones like inactive and on hold and entered an error. And then there's different types of identifiers with, when we start getting into local identifiers, and also addresses and telecoms, where systems perhaps have a maximum number of places where they can store telecoms, or the specific types of addresses and names that they support. And as I said, the codable concepts of so which terminologies or code systems they support as well. So there's some of the examples of trying to come up with that. Now, I tried to paraphrase or take some notes so what I thought was the outcome. So this is my interpretation of what the outcome of the conversation was. And I think the if we go back to the actual definition and the actual notes associated with what HL7 FHIR believes shall handle means, that we kind of came up with something that was along the lines of understanding the meaning of the element and the consequences of using or not using the element. So, and that was sort of elaborated a little bit with a couple of points that basically when you ignore an element without considering these consequences, it would actually mean that your system is non-conformant. So really it's at least understanding the consequences of not using an element is a key part of this. And it also, if we get into a conformance process, then it would require that the system that's providing the provider of the system would need to be able to explain how the system uses that particular data element or a subset of the data. Otherwise, why it does not use the data. So we got some next steps. We're going to try and work out how we now finalize this definition, but also provide some examples on where that definition applies, and try and feed that back into the IG somehow. Any other comments or questions? Comments in particular, I guess, would be great. I think I come back to this later on anyway, so there's another opportunity to comment. So the breakout for hot topics, again, I've been running these at the various forums. This time we went back to the topic of generating and accessing patient summaries. We walked through the generation and access page in the implementation guide that basically has there's about 9 or so options of how to generate and access a patient summary. And from my perspective, I'm looking to, do we need all of those? Is that too many options? And looking at how we can refine that page down to ones that perhaps are a little bit more reflective or relevant to the Australian context. So we went through the dollar summary options. We looked at dollar.ref. As part of the dollar.summary, we've got some insights into some of the additional parameters that the digital agency are looking at providing in their My Health Record implementation of dollar summary going forwards, where we have a little bit of control over the data that would be included in a medication section, for example, or a problem section. But this is all based on the existing functionality or parameterization of the existing views that the respective views, so a medicine's view, for example. So there's already parameterization on those APIs that allow us to actually say, go back 5 years. And there's a default and those sorts of things. So you've got start to be able to control at an individual section level what how much data is included, and also being able to exclude certain sections from that patient summary as well. So that was an interesting conversation. We also went into document bundle interactions. We talked about name queries and about document reference interactions, encrypted file exchange, and smart health links. And so finally, I summarize the breakout by asking a couple of questions, one around for the vendors on which of these generation access options were being considered as being implemented, and also which of those options we should retain within the IG. And I guess this line is quite arbitrary. But I guess I've kind of said, oh, maybe there's a line that sits somewhere around here. That line, we can discuss where that line should actually sit. But if we look over on the right-hand side, I can know that the writing is not visible, but you can see over here that the document bundle FHIR interactions only had three options. The named query search only had one response on it. And the document bundle and document reference interactions, they only had three. And the IHE interactions had none at all. And the the encrypted file exchange had four. So really, there's a clear, for me, there's a clear top three. Smart Health Links is in there as a good way of exchanging things from a consumer app perspective, and also Dollar Summary and DocRef have got some good support. And for me, the interesting thing was that there are more vendors looking to or considering to implement Dollar DocRef than in the past when I've asked the same question. So normally the dollar doc ref would actually fall behind the line, below the line, but this time it seems to have crept up above my arbitrary line. We did go on and just talk a bit around um, oh, it was more of a review of what was discussed in Canberra the month before around the expectations of handling an AUPS, and in particular some of the topics that Graham had raised. Um, and in particular, the outcome of that session where we took a motion to have a need for a clear and reliable way to identify an AU patient summary by inspecting the document. So that was actually a motion that was passed at the TDG in Canberra. So we then started to look at some of the options to actually do exactly that, identifying an AU patient summary that Graham put up in a Zulip channel. And these were the five options that he sort of put up, and along with his preferred option, which was using this new application feature framework extension that is in draft, and using the actor producer as effectively the indicator or a claim that the author of the IPS conforms to AUPS obligations and has produced an IPS that it believes conforms to AUPS. So that's the way he sort of defines this extension, or in particular this instance of the extension, as a reasonable way to identify a patient summary. However, I'm not sure that that got too much support in the room. There's a few that liked the idea, but there was certainly some additional support for things like the composition code, having something more specific around that. We talked about the need to perhaps identify different versions of a particular implementation guide, and also the traditional meta.profile. When I say traditional, that it's quite commonly used, but there's some questions around, is that actually specifying more the conformance to profiles compared to conformance to obligations, and the main problem there is that that profile doesn't necessarily have to be persisted, and can be modified, so that there's a risk of using that as a reliable way of identifying a patient summary. So as an outcome, there was sort of some possible approach of using SNOMED CT codes that we can define within the Australian context, and add that alongside the existing low-ink code, rather than going through the more US-centric low-ink process of creating a new low-ink code. Danielle.
You just go back to the previous slide on the multiple options. What I heard from people in the room is, in terms of preference, the first preference for people in the room was composition type. because their systems can do that. If they care about it, they'll know how to read it. The next preference is meta.profile. Also, I think for a very similar reason. The reason it wasn't, I think, the first preference, because again, that gets overridden and changed all the time. Um, I think the third preference then was to use the application feature framework, though there were a lot of concerns in the room about it for different reasons, some of which were obviously because it is in development. So we can't actually use it yet. We couldn't actually publish an official standard with it because it's in draft form. And we're also not sure that this is how people will do it around the world. And then I think neither language code nor arbitrary extension were viewed as even feasible. That they were both kind of agreed to be not actual means that we could do this. I just wanted to provide that update. And I don't know if that is also echoing what the people on the line would think about how you could possibly do this.
Anyway, that's I guess a work in progress. Probably more of a topic. Well, I think Danielle, you did mention that we would be looking to put something into the IG to perhaps clarify this in R1, or is it more of an
No,
R2 thing for you?
it might even be R2. I know
Yeah.
that while there was a motion taken, there isn't a JIRA. I think we've kind of agreed that this is something that, no, I think we have agreed this is something that we should work on because that is the
Mm,
TDG decision.
mm,
Um, I think the other thing that when we go to ballot, and we look at our scope for balloting as well, we'll need to work out, is this something we have to do in R1? Also, because if this is interesting, we would be the only nation in the world currently who's doing this, and I'm not
mm.
sure how much we want to be the leading party on pioneering this. So I think there's a number of things that also got the feeling in the room, and I'm thinking that way as well, that it might be too early to try to actually put something into R1. Yeah, that was my
Yeah.
thought.
I th I think it needs to be fed back up to the IPS group because I don't think the IPS group have really even taken this on or thought about it yet. So, Marvin, you're off mute. Did you come off mute for a comment?
You know if Graham mentioned it to them or he's raised it for any of the other jurisdictions?
Well, it's not as much as this is. He's probably using Australia as a sounding board to some extent. So, I mean, there is what Graham has actually said is you, jurisdictions need to be able to say what the expectations are for on systems when they're managing or receiving or handling patient summaries that are conformant with their local implementation guide and also more generally from over international patient guides or from alternate jurisdictions. So that's where what he has discussed with them. But this is kind of now, okay, well, how do we actually do that? So it really comes down to that fundamental thing. How do we distinguish between a New Zealand one, a US one, a European one, and an Australian one, or one that is truly an IPS?
Okay, so it sounds as though we do have a little bit of work to do, and it probably would be probably wouldn't be wise to just try and push something quickly through in R1.
No, I don't think so. It's a matter of are we going to add anything more than what we already say? I think is in on this topic. Over to you, Danielle, on this one.
Oh, right. Okay, yes. Testing. So, quite an increase actually, which is good. A bunch of viewers. So we're now at 17 different we've got, and we've tracked them into our test spreadsheet and all our stats, 17 different products. I think more has actually happened. So I'm going to put something on Zula, but if you don't find yourself there, or if you think you did more than what we've got, let us know, please, because I think maybe we've got a couple of other interactions that happened in the room that might be a bit more adjacent, but that we could capture. So, additions in here, we had David Hay from, well, New Zealand, who came across with ClinFire and a bundle viewer. We also had Did You Go viewers. We had Essentia with the in development patient summary generator, the agency's patient summary generator, um, and I think we had an app from Intervise. And I think that's all the new stuff that we captured. So if you want to go to the next slide.
And Create also had a new part of their product as well. So
Oh, did they? I don't
yeah.
think we've changed any of the results for Create IT. I think we've only got their old stuff then. So we might need to
So
look into that.
previously they had a viewer, now they're actually producing as well. So, but
Oh,
I think it has been considered. But I mean, Shelley can probably confirm, but my understanding is it was considered. But they're producing as well as viewing, and it's just been consolidated into the one column.
yep. Okay. So here's the increased numbers. We're getting really good coverage. More than I expected, to be fair. Um, We've got, I mean, you'd expect it across the mandatory stuff like bundles, compositions, patients, medications, conditions, allergies, but we're also getting a ton of stuff around procedures. Immunizations also a lot, which isn't a surprise. I think that was the only mandatory section that we in Australia had said, no, that's actually a priority for us to be exchanging. So that tracks that we continue to get uh, that as like the next most set of data that we're getting. But across the board, we got increased results across the profiles. Uh, what we haven't updated yet are any of the interactions. So on the bottom right of that screen. We haven't updated for dollar summary. I think Heath, you and I discussed that there were at least two, maybe three more systems that were using dollar summary on the day in the Connectathon, and I think there's a few more using bundle read. That's probably all I wanted to say on this slide. Do you want to go to the next one? And so that puts us in this position, and in fact, actually go to the next one because that's even better. Here's what we're looking at for in terms of our coverage of requirements. So that is the mandatory and must support elements. We are at 100% coverage of our mandatory and must support elements for the majority of the profiles in AU patient summary, which is pretty fantastic. And we're also greater than 80% for a lot. I'm really surprised at AU patient summary composition. Uh, there's been, I think, maybe a wider variety, and probably, I guess it actually comes down to maturity and a wideness of use cases. I'm seeing a lot more variation in the data that people are looking to exchange and capture than I thought we would get based on like our very first scoping meeting. So, we're at AFMM2 level. I mean, we'll have a meeting about it later, but we are there for AU patient summary composition. We've got the majority of sections in the composition have more than three systems that we have test results for. And in fact, for I think all sections, we've got at least one system that's done something with it, which, yeah, I found that a bit that surprises me. Um, where we don't have things yet is Encounter. Um, we're missing some elements in pathology result. I am not surprised about that. The pathology result from our core is much more extensive than a patient summary use case and IPS. So I don't know. We might end up wanting to take some must supports out in our core. That might be some of the feedback. Um, and we're also missing some things for practitioner role and related persons. So I think we're going to do a call out. Um, I think coming into our next testing event, which is the March Connectathon in Sydney, and also look at any asynchronous testing and test results we might get between then and now to look at what we can just close those gaps on and where we really are missing things. But we're looking to be in really good shape coming into the ballot for working standard. And that's my update. Any questions on that?
I might just make a comment that encounter and related person in particular are kind of sort of third tier references, like they're referenced from things like immunization and conditions and the like, or medication statements. I mean, there is related person is an option around things like authors and stuff, but it's not a very common use case. So that probably reflects why they're on the lower end.
Yeah. I don't think we've had a lot of consumer-facing apps where the consumer is direct authoring, and that's where I would probably expect to get the related person coverage. So I agree. Uh, given what we've got so far, I'm not surprised either.
Okay, shall I just jump straight into the next section, Ricardo? Thank you.
Yeah, go for it.
Unless anyone got a question before I do so. Um, there's 3 change requests that are coming through. I don't think any of them are actually related to the ballot responses. They're more about tickets that have been raised as a result of ballot reconciliation, and getting further clarity, or just were identified as issues after the ballot process. So the first one, I would like to actually see if we can get through to a resolution on. The other 2, I just don't expect that we will have the time to maybe even discuss, let alone get to a decision. And basically, it's going to be sort of socializing the ideas because they're quite complex anyway. So we'll come back then new year, but just wanted to sort of give you some updates on where we're at. I think, I don't know if it matters, but I personally think that this, maybe it's just a typo, but I think this 53116 is actually a normative change, but we can talk about that in a moment. Okay, so must support obligations for mandatory status and intent elements as a shall populate requirement. So I'll just bring this up on Endura as well. And this is more perhaps because of the idea of whether this is normative or informative. So this is the issue I raised. I've raised it against these particular artifacts. The idea is that we had previously made a decision in 5244 or 52411, which was the subject element, that because it was must support and mandatory, that a system shall not only populate if known, but shall demonstrate the capability of doing it in some circumstances. And basically that combination of the 2 obligations of shall be capable of and shall populate if known is reflected as a combined obligation of shall populate. So this is really just following that same pattern of, well, these items in things like immunization, medication requests, medication statement and procedure, status in particular, it is covered by all 4 of them. Intent is only in medication request, but they are mandatory and must support. Currently have a obligation of shall populate if known. I'm basically arguing that it, based on the precedent of above, that we should migrate these to shall populate obligation. So I've proposed a disposition for this, that it is persuasive, and that for the elements of status in these for resources and intent in medication request, that the producer is expected to both be able to populate and populate if known when the value exists, and are allowed to be shared, and hence that we upgrade that to the populate obligation for those two elements. Anyhow, sorry, I was looking, it was hidden behind your
Yeah,
orange thing.
I didn't mean to click the button yet. But I will ask a question slash add some comments when you
No,
have
I'm
finished
done.
with the
You go
proposal.
for it.
So this is definitely not editorial. This is normative. It is an additional constraint on top of core and IPS, neither of which have this requirement, nor are they likely to. I see that it's following the pattern of before, but I don't agree that it's necessarily the same thing. Well, we might have the same reason for applying this additional thing, but it will be Australian specific. So when we added the shall populate for patient, it wasn't just because something's mandatory and there's a shall populate if no. It's not editorial. It is stating a system behavior that says if your system cannot capture a patient, then, then we don't believe that you can be supplying patient summaries. So it is actually more work here. So, I mean, I I'm not for this at this time. I realize we can pick a number of elements that we want to upgrade the strength to state that a system that claims it's a producer has to be capable of this data and work that through. But I think it is going to be an Australian specific obligation for status and intent, probably. I would hope not patient, because that should be the purpose of patient summaries. So I guess I was probably also trying to say that I don't think it's as
Cut and dry.
I don't think it's just as as obvious and flow through for these elements as it was for the patient element.
Yeah. So I guess my response to that is probably this comment here around that these elements modifiers, and I know just because they're a modifier, that's not good enough reason, and I think that was more in the context of mandatoriness. But it does change the interpretation of the resource. And again, because entered in error is not in theory allowed, some of those other things like on hold and cancelled does really change how you interpret these. So if someone just keeps pumping out DAR extensions on this particular element, they're not really, what does a consumer do with that status of that resource if they're DAR'd all the time?
Before we go to
So
Marvin, I'll have a rebuttal on that. This is a summary document, not a data entry document. So I'm a bit uncomfortable on putting shall populate here on the summary document when we've been talking a lot about population and just on population being like a generation of what the system has. Um, and that's probably where I'm feeling that without a without an entry document that matches this strength, it's strange to be putting this into the summary. So I'm not feeling comfortable with it at this time for that reason.
Marvin,
I guess my question is, and this is kind of open question to those on the call, if you were generating one of these resources, given would your system be unable to populate those fields? or what would be the situation where you don't think you would be able to populate those fields? I guess
Crickets.
the reason I'm asking is that I think it's kind of low-hanging fruit in a way. I I'd be surprised if people weren't able to populate those fields based
Yeah,
on the resources that they already have in their system.
or hard code them, which I think probably a lot of systems do.
So I'll say, why isn't it in AU core? Like core doesn't require this.
Because it's core. This is a downstream. And the take e-requesting as an example, they've made a decision that basically anything that's mandatory in e-requesting has a shall populate obligation, and they've stated that as their default rules effectively around obligations. And that's in the context of e-requesting because they're basically saying, well, this element is mandatory because it actually is so important in the interpretation of the resource that we've made it mandatory. Then yes, there's some circumstances where you may not be allowed to share it, but in this particular case, these sorts of elements like status intent, I mean, really, are we going to be even have the situation where we're going to not be allowed to share? Or,
Maybe. This is the summary document. This is the tail end. My concern is that if all the input specs, maybe they're only using core. I mean, I get it with e-requesting. That's your input. That's like your point of actual like data capture and then moving that through the workflow. That makes sense. I'm worried with summary that this is stronger. Um, and therefore yeah, no, I guess I worry about making what is the tail end that might aggregate over what a system already has. And we'll go, well, look, if you haven't even built in the capability to capture it, we won't look at summaries of whatever you have. And so that made sense for me with patients in and of themselves. Like, don't share a patient summary if you don't even have the capability to capture a patient, obviously. Um, for status and intent, I think we have to look at it within that light. I think it's reasonable we can look at it within that light, but I don't think it's every element that's mandatory. Not like you requesting for that reason that I was
yeah.
saying that this is a summary that we expect to be auto-generated off whatever's already there. We're not actually capturing things through this spec, and the shall populate constraint can run the risk of closing off summaries of systems that haven't built in that capability.
So is it these two elements in particular that you're concerned about, or is it the setting up a precedent that everything that's mandatory is shall populate? Because I, I'm happy to sort of consider that this is not setting a precedent for the latter, and that we are actually addressing this in the context of these specific elements
I'd
because
like,
they are
yep.
so easily populated, or there should be really no implementation reason why you don't have this information.
If you have to do legacy stuff and you don't actually have the specific status for a medication statement already, we're saying you can't include it in your patient summary. That is essentially what this would mean, right? Or something like that. Is that what we mean? Um, okay, sorry. To answer your question, I guess it's both. I don't think we should set the precedent, but I do think we should consider whether or not status and intent, and I realize you are putting that argument to the group, and so that's fantastic for us to consider whether or not these are strong enough requirements that we are trying to filter out systems who haven't had that capability to capture this already, that we're going, we're not going to have summaries from you, thank you.
Ricardo?
Thanks, Ed. Look, I'm just trying to understand because Like, does it really make much difference at the end? Because you can still have it as a shall populate and not, you still have an avenue through which you won't provide the value out, right? So it still has provisions for that. So really, at the end of the day, if for consistency's sake we change it to shall populate, is that that much of an impact in doing that? I think for me, I look at it, okay, if we by default almost we're saying, look, if it's got a cardinality minimum of 1, we have it as a shall populate, and if we're going to have these two not really adhering to that way of doing things, I think that's actually worse than probably the other, or the other, or the alternative. So I think for me, it probably makes sense to update it and make it consistent, because I don't think that having it shall populate is going to really impact the downstream systems too much. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand what are the real impacts of changing this, or not. And I think from a consistency perspective, for me, it makes sense to change it to shall populate.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some mandatory ones that we probably have a very good reason for, things like being masked. Like there's that do not, not allowed to share in this context scenario. So I think probably setting the precedent is not what we want to achieve out of this. It's more about, for these particular elements, for these particular resources, status in particular, that you, what do we do with it if I just got a DAR? Like, because can I actually handle that very well as a receiver of this? But Marvin?
So I was just going to ask that it's more in terms of how does a consumer interpret these resources if those fields are not included? And does it matter? I guess I'm not the right person to say does it matter, because I'm not a clinician. But if I receive it, I'm assuming that everything in there is either labeled in a way that I can interpret, or that it is good to go, kind of active. So I guess I'd probably ask, well, what would the clinician want to see in these instances in order for them to use the information to make informed decisions?
So Ricardo, I don't know how you would like to proceed with this particular item. I'm personally willing to put the motion forward. If it doesn't get a seconder, I'm happy to move on.
Yep.
Personally, I absolutely think you should. Just because I've voiced concerns, and it's only one person out of all of who's on the line, and the other people who've spoken up have been in support of this. I think that's clear that, and there's nothing in the chat that indicates that anybody else has concerns. I think that's clear that
Yeah,
that can go ahead.
I think so.
I mean, is there anything in this, anything in that resolution that you are concerned about, that we're setting a precedent? That's what I'm hearing is probably your strongest
I
objection, is that we're doing it specifically for these two elements, and we're not setting a precedent that every mandatory one is then going to become populate. That every element really needs to be considered on a case-by-case basis.
I think we have 100% have to do that. Almost all our cardinality, actually, all our cardinality is inherited from two specs that do not have this level of strength in them. So we need to be very careful and considered and have just reasons, which we even did with the patient. And we're having that conversation now, which I really appreciate, on why it's important to do it on status and intent. But absolutely, we can't just decide that this is, you just apply it continuously.
I don't see anything in this resolution as written on the screen, which would be my motion, that suggests that this is a precedent that we're setting. It's clearly about these two elements only. So I'm willing to put this forward as a motion as stated on the screen.
Here's just a quick clarification question. So the first bullet point shall populate on the mandatory. You mean shall populate if known? Is that the case, or shall populate full stop?
So as per the definition of FHIR populate, which is basically it is a combination of the two parents able to populate and populate if known.
Okay.
So you shall be capable of demonstrating that you populate it in some circumstances, but you still have the ability to say unknown in the case of status. So,
Right. Okay.
but
Yeah.
you shall demonstrate that you have a value of unknown for in some circumstances, in some
Okay.
use
So
cases.
it's not a shall populate full stop. That's fine. Yeah. Thank you.
So it's still when you're allowed to be shared. Okay. Did you want to call for a seconder, Ricardo?
Yep. Anyone wants to second its motion?
Happy to second that.
Okay. I will.
Can I just realized reading this, it says AU core producer on the second bullet point, and obviously we mean AUPS producer.
Sorry.
And then,
Yep.
no, all good.
If you're unable to vote, please drop your vote in the chat.
Are you all making a change?
Okay. I think the numbers have stopped to go up, so give it another second or two and stop the poll. All right. So I'll read out the results. So we had 7 affirmative and 7 abstain, which means the motion has passed. Thank you. Back to you, Heath.
Well, given that we've got 10 minutes, Ricardo, is it even worth moving on?
It's probably a good point. So is there anything in here you think you can cover?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
So we'll just roll that forward to the next meeting.
Yeah, I think so. I've got multiple slides on both of those items, so.
Okay. All right. I'll put the slides back on the. Yep. Oh, okay. If you wanna keep sharing. So, look, in terms of the next steps for us, as I said, so this is the last meeting for the year. The next meeting will currently is expected to happen on the 9th of January 2026. The agenda.
Sorry,
Sorry,
Ricardo.
yep.
I don't think the slide got updated.
That it? Okay.
I think this is a copy paste from an early slide pack. I think your next slide might be more helpful on that one, and we can talk to agenda on that one because the next one is 23rd of January, actually. The calendar, the HL7 AU FHIR calendar, and hopefully, although I'll double check that because I think I'm still the owner of the Outlook invites. Hopefully, people don't have one on the 9th, and if they do, I'll cancel it. But yeah, it's going to be 23rd. Yeah.
The 23rd is the next meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So okay. Yes, Kathleen is saying that she still has the 9th. All right, so we'll
Yeah, I
update
still
that.
have on the 9th as well.
We'll update that, and just then flagging that the next one will then be on the 23rd of January. And I've also just quickly checked the calendar on Confluence, and it seems to be correct now. So that's good. Couple of other things that already been mentioned, but the ballot for working standard period. So that's approaching very quickly. And if you haven't received the email, as Daniel mentioned, just reach out. I think, Danielle, you were gonna search for some details and just share with the group.
Yeah, and I forgot to. Let me do that now. Apologies. I'll just pop that in the chat right now. Um, okay, I'm writing the message. I've got the email address.
Yeah, cool. And I guess that's it really for
Let's
us.
talk about the next agenda.
Yeah. So we'll probably bring back the couple of items that you haven't been able to get through at this meeting today. I think there were 2 more that we still need to go through. Other than that, is there anything else that we want to?
Will you be doing FMM, won't you, Danielle? That's probably
We can. I think it's actually probably better to. We don't have a full forward projection. So if we're planning to publish, and we still are at like the end of the financial year. So July 2026 was what we thought we would get AU Patient Summary done by, and that's quite possible. But it also means that we don't have a lot of slack to go through ballot reconciliation, though I'm not expecting particular changes, looking at the approval rating and how well testing and everything is going. But out of so between so what between now and the time we have to publish, we've got 2 meetings. We've got the 23rd of January and the 6th of February. So those 2 are the final call for any substantive changes that we want to make. Especially like anything normative, to go through that agreement. So if there's, I don't expect it, but I guess call out to people on the line. If there's anything that you think is been missing from the AU patient summary R1 that we don't yet have, or need to work through for R1, we've got those 2 meetings to put that in. The ballot for working standard, unlike the ballot for comment, isn't like an open call for just come up with any ideas. It's a ratification of the work that we've done as a group to put together what would be a first release of a patient summary to allow that to go out for trial implementation across Australia. So it's a review for approval is what the ballot for working standard is. Obviously, if you find things or you learn things later on and you need to raise them, please do. But it's not for the introduction of totally new capabilities. So I think we've got the period between now and then we've got those 2 calls. If there's anything further than what we're already working on, which is some of the refinements on the language, um, and well, we've just agreed on that one, Heath, around the strengthening of the obligation on those elements. Um, this is the opportunity to raise that and flag that this is what you think needs to be discussed in those calls. And otherwise, we'll definitely be going through AFMM1. Sorry. We'll be doing that and ratifying what our scope is. We'll go through the scope, confirm that we're satisfied, that we feel that this is sufficient to go out to a ballot for working standard. Yeah.
All right. Anything else from anybody? Otherwise, we'll close up the meeting.
I know it's only a minute left, but do you want to do a quick retrospective for those that might have 2 minutes to stay back?
Yep.
Danielle?
Good idea.
Sorry. So I've got a Minty here very quickly that you can do a QR code on or join at minty.com with code 39528190. So just 3 questions here. So we're just looking to see what's worked well through AU patient summary calls and also include our face-to-face meetings. And then we're just going to do a couple of extra standard sort of retrospective questions around, what should we start doing? What should we stop doing? It's interesting, some of the other questions that I asked in the last TDG, which were a bit more pointed, you've actually covered them in this open question. So that's been great to get that feedback. Thank you. So we've got 3 more people that have not responded yet. I just give you a couple more moments before I move to the next question. Got one more. Okay, so I might just move on to the next question. There we go, one more, excellent. All right, I'll move on now. Okay, what should we start doing for future calls that we're not currently doing? If we're doing everything perfectly, just do your thumbs up so I know that you got nothing to contribute here. Okay, so I might take that as an indicator that there's nothing that we should change or nothing that we should start doing. So what about what we should stop doing? And again, if you've got nothing to, just put your thumbs up. If we're doing everything as you would expect. Well, certainly from my perspective, I think it's been an amazing 12 months, considering it was December where we had a session in, can't remember which city, and we were talking about the priorities for patient summary, and I think we came out with 4, which was the obvious 3, plus immunizations, and as Danielle presented at the during our last Connectathon results, that we got so much more than just the 4 there, that we really went beyond the call of duty, I think, last year. So that's my feedback to everyone. All right, thank you very much. Back to you, Ricardo.
Can I just
Thanks.
also
Thanks,
add a
Des. Yeah.
comment that I think we also have had in repeated calls with the IPS project a lot of appreciation from them on the work that this group has been doing and the items that they've identified and brought to the IPS project, which has helped drive their outcomes and they're continuing to work on as well, including the thing around the obligations for the was it repeating elements? Yeah, the work that we continue to do in Australia is really appreciated from the international community. So thanks on their behalf as well.
And that's a good segue. We've got another meeting on Wednesday morning. I know that's New Year's Eve. Sorry, New Year's Eve. That's Christmas Eve. But yep, 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. We've got our last IPS call, and we will probably be kicking off. Well, coming back. I'm hoping that I might have some sort of proposal back around that multiple recurring elements obligations, and probably hopefully get some feedback from the other fortnight sessions around some of the other stuff like no known medications and the like. So I know they have actually been having those conversations in those other weeks that we're not attending, and they're getting some interesting feedback on that as well. So if you start looking through minutes and things of those off weeks, it's we have really stimulated some conversations around the world on this stuff. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all. And we'll see you next year. Have a safe holiday, and yeah, hope to see you all back in the new year. So thank you all.
Thanks, Ricardo.
Great work, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.